The Kaal Multiverse watch is something that has been around for a long time now, and there are tons of reviews of it online. In all honesty, I've always been on the fence. Every now and again, I like the look of it. Sometimes I don't. This is the Artemis dial version, or the Moon dial version, and I decided to make it central to my own universe for a while, so I could finally make a decision on whether or not it's a hit for me, and post my findings here. And stick around as I take the Artemis around the beautiful coastal town of Whitby in my usual walk around at the end of my vid. As ever, it's great to have you here. But before we do anything else, here's the watcher's spec in 90 seconds. Every now and again, especially in the really creative and sometimes wacky world of this microbrand microcosm I seem to live in, I come across dial designs that take my breath away. And sometimes I come across dial designs that I literally shake my head at and wonder where it all went wrong in the mind of the microbrand owner. Now admittedly, I've done both when it comes to the Kaal Multiverse. However, every time I've come across it, it's either been on YouTube or on Instagram. So this is the first time that I've had one in my hand, or the first time that I've had one on my wrist, and the first time that I've taken it out to really understand how I actually feel about it. First and foremost, this is the Moon dial version, but Sol or Sun and Gaia or Earth dial versions are also available. Now for me personally, it wears really comfortably, it being helped by the fact that the 42mm case size, 47mm lug to lug and the 22mm lug width dimension sits more or less right in the sweet spot for me personally and my 7.5-inch wrists. And it's got some weight on it too, coming in at 114 grams with this leather strap, so you do feel it on your wrist and you see it too, especially as it's 19mm thick with this double dome sapphire crystal with inner AR coating. The case is stainless steel 316L brushed and resembles that of a spacecraft, actually quite aesthetically pleasing. The mid part of the case curves into this double dome crystal that really gives it that flying saucer aesthetic, and the lugs are patterned with what I imagine are streaks of a meteor or a comet. It's also worth mentioning that the lugs aren't drilled, instead having a little circular star with a countersunk screw effect, and the bottom half of the case has the watch's serial number engraved. There is a loomed push-pull crown which is really easy to operate, however slight shame it isn't screw down, and micro-analysing the case alone I think it's really slick, very modern. The case can be quite alluring actually, and the aesthetics of which are, for me, really pleasing on the eye. Now under the dome is where the watch's uniqueness is really captured. First and foremost, the half moon that dominates the dial is suspended under this steel bridge, which I've been told is inspired by combat spacecraft, and the moon below looks to be a well-made model with high detail and good contouring all around. Now I know that the steel bridge serves a purpose in suspending that moon above the dial, but I personally think that it adds massively to that metallic sci-fi look that brings the look and feel of the steel case into the dial itself. Reading the time took some getting used to. Once you get it, it's really quite easy. As you can see, there is no hour hand, so the inverted triangle at what would normally be 12 o'clock on the chapter ring is essentially your hand, with a transparent disc rotating to indicate what hour of the day it is, and that disc has loomed hour numerals printed on it. Beneath the transparent disc is a lovely adventurine base dial. The northern star here in red is your minute hand, and that basically orbits the moon, pointing at the minutes here indicated on that chapter ring, which again is also loomed. The seconds hand is this small orb that hugs the perimeter of the moon and again is loomed. And speaking of loom, you have Swiss Superluminova C3 luminous markers on the transparent disc and Superluminova C3 in the centre of the red northern star and the orb. And it's all generously applied too, so this watch is probably best appreciated in the dark, and it even shines quite brightly in darker areas outside too. This is all powered by a Seiko NH35, 24 joules with 41 hour power reserve, so decent reliable movement, part of which is visible through a small hole on the embossed 3D caseback. And the watch comes on this premium Horween genuine leather strap, in this case black with white stitching, and I must say it's very well made. The buckle is 20mm stainless steel and signed with a Kaal logo. Now if you were to buy this directly from Kaal, it would set you back about $699 US. That's about 570 British pounds, or about 650 euros. Now purely speaking from a technical point of view, I think that is quite reasonable, and I'm glad they didn't design this watch with a cheaper spec in mind to try and reduce that price point. After all, this is a serious watch, and I'm glad the specs reflect that. I mean, I can see how people who have more conservative tastes in watches may not buy into this, but there is a market out there for those who like not just space, sci-fi and the whole concept that sits behind the design of this watch, but who like the quirky, the extra creative pieces where there is literally never a dull moment on your wrist. Now my own personal journey with this watch has been extremely positive. I wanted people to see it. I wanted people to ask me about it. And I wasn't afraid to show that creative side of me, the one that likes to go beyond boundaries of what one may consider normality. And I actually love the design and the imagination that went into this. For me, that cannot be underappreciated. After all, Carl Sagan once said, "Imagination will carry us to worlds that never were, but without it, we go nowhere." Right boys, we are off to Whitby.
I already knew how to spell Whitby. Where, Thomas?
And we are